The damper pedal is one of the unique components that makes the piano truly a special instrument. And it's easy enough to just push it down to the floor and add some interesting sound flavor right on your very first lesson. No special skills required. Eventually, we do get to the point where you want to learn how to use the pedal in a strategic way to help you smoothly change from one chord to another, and it's a little bit counterintuitive. The timing isn't quite what you may have thought, and it's trickier than it looks. However, there is great news. Unlike many other piano techniques, which might take years to master, basic connected pedaling is a skill that you could realistically expect to get pretty good at in just a matter of a few weeks. Hello, my name is David Lane, and I like to help pianists and composers with strategies and techniques that will help them build their crafts, and hopefully I can help you too. Your pedal unit might look like this if you have an acoustic piano or a digital piano in a frame, or like this if you have a portable digital keyboard. You might even have a piano that only has two pedals. In the future, in another video, I'll probably go over what the other pedals do. But today we're talking about the damper pedal, which it doesn't matter if you have 1, 2, or 3 pedals, it is always the one on the right. If you do have 3 pedals, one thing that you should know is that you will use the damper pedal exponentially more frequently than the other 2 pedals combined. For that reason, the damper pedal or the sustain pedal is often just called the pedal, and that's how I'll be referring to it for the rest of this video. How does the pedal work? Before we answer that, let's ask another question. What are dampers? When the piano is at rest, these pads are pressing against the strings to prevent them from vibrating. In other words, they are dampening the strings and called dampers. This is important that this is the normal state of dampers, pressing against the strings instead of allowing them to freely vibrate. Why? It's because sound waves have properties that physically affect other objects, especially tightened strings. If the dampers are raised, the strings will react to any sound from any source in the same room on the same pitch if that source is loud enough. La 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 la. If the strings were allowed to freely vibrate, this would make it a bit annoying trying to watch a movie in the same room as a piano. Piano strings are suppressed or dampened in their natural state. There are 2 ways to release the dampers. The first is to play any key, and the damper for that key will lift simultaneously to the hammer coming forward to strike the string. This is the truly inventive part of the piano, that along with being sensitive to soft and loud based on the amount of force applied to the key, it's what we call the action. It's an incredibly coordinated sequence of timing. The hammer strikes the string mere milliseconds before the damper clears the strings to allow the strings for that one key to vibrate. All the other keys that you're not playing are still in a state of rest. The second way to release the damper is to lift all 88 of them at once, and that is by pressing down the damper pedal. Once the pedal is pressed down, all the strings will continue to vibrate after they are played. You can hear this whether you press the keys or even pluck the strings. Before we go over pedal techniques, there's one last thing I want to go over. When and why do we use the damper pedal? This is an important question to answer because when you compare sheet music that is intended for students versus editions and pieces of sheet music that are not necessarily intended for students, you will find only 2 common differences at all levels. In non-student sheet music, you will seldom see finger numbers, and you will seldom see pedaling instructions. I'll definitely be making videos in the future about fingerings in a variety of situations, but for now, let's go over the pedal. There are only 3 reasons to use the pedal. The first is to create an effect of reverb, blending all the notes of a common chord together more than you could sustain with your hands. The second one only applies if you're playing on an acoustic piano because this doesn't actually work on a digital piano, and that is to add resonance to loud chords like a final chord. You're creating sympathetic vibrations from the other strings, particularly those that are found within the overtone series. However, there are no sympathetic vibrations at work in a digital keyboard. So this is unnecessary unless you are practicing with the expectation that you will eventually play the piece that you're working on an acoustic piano. The third reason, and the only one demanding any skill that requires a good bit of practice, is connected pedaling. Sometimes this happens within a lot of broken chord passages, like the Debussy Reverie example that I played earlier, where the pedal does lift and come back down on chord changes. But this is especially helpful on pieces like this Norse song by Robert Schumann, where you're not trying to blend any sounds together, but to smoothly change chords so that when you lift your hands, you don't lose the sound. Listen to what this would sound like without the pedal. It's like the piano is taking a breath after every note. Okay, having gone over all that, there are 3 components to good pedaling. The first is to use your right foot and always keep your heel on the floor. It's a lot more work to lift your entire foot off the floor, and frankly, it just looks awful. The second component to know is range of motion. You don't have to go all the way down. About 2/3 to 3/4 is sufficient. Keep in mind that it doesn't matter if the dampers clear the strings by 1 centimeter or 2 centimeters. It just has to clear the strings enough that the strings can vibrate fully without creating a buzz by the dampers being too close. To be safe, however, you do want to come all the way up to make sure you completely clear the sound. For this reason, I recommend that you rest your foot in the up position before you play rather than getting comfortable in the down position. So far, this should be easy. Use your right foot, keep your heel on the floor, come all the way up and most of the way down. So now let's talk about the third component. Let's talk about timing. Right. So I'm with my student and I'm going to hand him this pencil. So go ahead and take the pencil. Oops, I let go too soon. Here you go. Take the pencil. Oh, I guess I need to let go. Okay, all right. Let's try that one more time. And now I'll take it back. So what happened? First of all, the pencil represents the sound of the piano. I'm representing the hands playing and holding onto the chord. My student is representing the foot playing the pedal. Me handing off a pencil is a metaphor for playing keys with the hands and then allowing the foot to take the sound so that my hands are free to move to the next group of keys. My first attempt at handing off the pencil failed because I let go before they had it. In other words, the sound was completely lost because for a brief instant, there was a point where the hands were not down and the pedal was not engaged. When that happens, it's like the piano is taking a big breath. This is something that happens when piano students try to use the pedal with this idea that they need to match the hand to the foot, synchronizing the hands and feet going down together. In other words, trying to get both to go down at the same time. The big problem is that if both are going down at the same time, then they are both up at the same time for at least a brief moment. And in that moment, nobody is holding the sound and the sound gets dropped. My second attempt handed off the sound smoothly, but I, representing the hands, did not let go of the sound. Truthfully, this isn't the best of illustrations. But the point that I'm making is that there's an issue when you are changing chords, but you don't release the pedal or you release it very late. You get a lot of bleed over and generally not a clean sound at all. It's reverb, but uncontrolled reverb like playing in a cathedral. Likewise, you get this when you don't lift the foot all the way up. The third attempt went well because my student secured the pencil and immediately afterwards I let go. Then the pencil was handed back to me in the same manner. And this is what connected pedaling is all about. The hand plays a chord or another set of keys. The foot plays to keep the sound sustaining, and the hand is free to move. Once the hand plays the next chord, the foot must release at the same time or very shortly after the chord is played, and absolutely not early. Once the hand has played the next chord and the foot has released the pedal, the foot can come back down right away, and the hand is now free to move again. It's the sound being passed back and forth between the hand and foot. So I want to give you an exercise now to help you work on the timing. Let's start with a basic exercise, and I will credit Faber's Piano Adventures for providing the template of this exercise. It really is about as good as you can get. We're going to take the white key chords, or just 2 of the 3 notes is fine, and move your way up the keyboard. Think about 4 beat whole notes. On beat 1, play the chord with the pedal up. On beat 2, the pedal goes down to that 2/3, 3/4 mark. Use beats 3 and 4 to move your hand to the next chord. And while you do this, you can account for beats 3 and 4 by saying either move hand or hold it to remind you to keep your foot down. Remember that you must not let go of the pedal before you have played the next chord. Be late if you must, but do not be early. This is really tough when you're just getting started. Keeping that foot down, it is the hardest part, but it is what you must pay attention to get good at connected pedaling. Like so many good piano exercises, this helps to have a metronome. I'm going to start slow with a quarter equaling 72. Our pattern for our foot is up, down, hold it, or up, down, move, hand. Go from a C chord to a D chord to an E chord. Don't worry about major and minor, just keep it as simple as possible. You can go up and you can go down. You can also do this with just 1 hand at a time if 2 hands is tricky. Make it work for your level right now. By the way, it's a very underrated aspect of this exercise that it is encouraging you to think about the pedal rhythmically. Piano playing always goes well when you think of every aspect, from when you shift from one octave to another to when you use the pedal in a rhythmic way that integrates into the tempo of the piece that you're playing. And my second exercise for you is, there is no second exercise. This is actually the only exercise you need. However, you can do a few small variations with this exercise to speed up your pedaling. Just a word of caution about pedaling and speed. A natural problem when you start trying to speed up your pedal is that you start to anticipate, and then the foot comes up too early. Remember, what is the number 1 rule for pedal timing? Don't be early. So you get faster, you simply speed up the metronome, get the click to 80. Get it to 100. Get it to 120. Get it to 160. You can also go back to a conservative 72 beats per minute and change your meter to 3/4 time. Now you only have 1 beat to move your hand, and then speed that up. The only thing I haven't gone over in this video is how to handle really fast broken chords. And that's because this involves modifying what you're doing with your hands in order to help your foot. I honestly don't have, at this point, any short-term plans of making a video on that specific topic, but let me know in the comments if that's something that you would actually be interested in. If you got something out of this video, I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe if you're not already, like this video, and share it with someone who might find it helpful. Speaking of helpful, if you got something out of this video, I think you'll also enjoy this one. Again, my name is David Lane. Thank you for watching and good luck with your practice.